Hilchos Yesodei Torah. Well, we're going to be doing Hilchos Yesodei Torah chapter 6, but as we have been doing, we're going to start with the Sefer mitzvahs. So, Sefer mitzvahs on this mitzvah, and fair warning, this is one of these cases where the Sefer mitzvahs presentation seems to be radically different from the Mishneh Torah presentation. So that's part of what we're going to try to examine. Okay, so we are in mitzvahs lo tase, mitzvah number 65. Mitzvah hachamesh v'shishim, the 65th mitzvah, ha'azhara shehutarna milahashmid binyane bate avodas Hashem yisala. How would you usually you see lahashmid as like in like genocidal terms, right? Like a shmad, like a persecution, or like lahashmid laharog ula abedas kol haYehudim. I'm just trying to think if I've ever seen it in regards to a structure.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It means to destroy, but like whatever.
Right.
So milahashmi binyane bate avodas. I'm just trying to think if there's like a better word that captures that connotation.
Decimate.
Yeah, no, decimate. I think is also only used with the people, like maybe eradicate.
Okay.
Like to get rid of every trace of. I don't even know what the etymology of shmad is, but so this prohibition to you got me saying decimate, to eradicate or to destroy binyane bate avodas Hashem, the buildings of the houses of the avodas of service of God, umilahakit sipri hanevua, and to destroy books of prophecy. Interesting specification there. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was wondering also. Yeah, we're not misleading. Yeah. And to erase holy names.
Right, like also like democracy.
Yeah, right, shortcut path, right. I mean, that you can argue is not doesn't have a status of ksav. I mean, still the question, but like the Torah like Suvim have kedusha. Yeah. Not that he puts everything in terms of kedusha here, but yeah. Okay. And things like them. So we've got 3 categories: buildings, books of nevuah, and then holy names. It's interesting that he. I feel like once you say holy names, then that kind of includes books of nevuah. Is there a single book of nevuah that doesn't have a holy name?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I just forgot to close my WhatsApp.
That's it.
Ooh, but that's ksubin.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. V'lashon halav shenemar b'inyan zeh hu amro lo sasun kain ladoshem elokechem. And the lashon of this law is, you shall not do such unto Hashem your God. I know that I said at the very beginning of the Rambam shiur that we're not going to delve into Torah B'tzav. I do feel like we should look up the psukim when he quotes the psukim. No, here you go. So let's, if you want to take that chumash and you want to take that chumash, and I'll take the chumash on here. Let's look that up. So we're looking at Devarim chapter 12. I think we'll just start at the beginning of the chapter. Oopsies, don't want to end the meeting. What am I wanting to do? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Stop share. Let's go to all Torah. Devarim, what did I say? 12? I think Devarim 12. Okay. Beginning of the chapter. Got there?
Yeah. What's that? Now I'm gonna be.
Okay. Eli hakukim v'mishpatim asher tishmun lasos ba'aretz asher natan Hashem l'avasecha alukei avasecha l'cha l'rishta kol hayamim asher atem chayim al ha'adamah. So these are the statutes and the laws or the judgments that you shall keep to do in the land that Hashem your God has given your fathers. Asher natan Hashem that Hashem, the God of your fathers, has given to you to inherit it all the days that you live on the earth. Now, this is one of the reasons I want to look at the psukim. This is a weird context in which to present this law. Okay, so check it out. Abed ta'abdun et kol hamakomos. You shall certainly destroy all the places. Asher avdu sham hagoyim, that the nations served there. Asher atem yorshim osam, who are you driving out as Elohim, where the nations served their gods. Al Harim Haramim, on the high mountains, Val Hagvot, and in the, upon the valleys, Vasachas Velis Ranan, and under every leafy tree. V'nitatztem es mizbechosam, you shall, I always forget the specific meaning of nitatztem. I know it's a destructive word. Let me see what this English says here. Break down. You shall break down their altars. Vishibartem es matevosam, and you shall destroy their pillars, I think. V'asherehim tizvum b'esh, and their trees you shall burn in the fire. V'fasile Elohem tegadeun, you shall, was that like lop off the limbs of their gods? What does our school say? Cut down, they say. Yeah. You shall destroy their names from that place. Lo tasun kein lad Hashem elokechem. You shall not do such to Hashem your God. That's how the mitzvah is presented. Yeah, right. So like, do all this stuff to the Avodah Zarah, and they're like Avodah implements and things, and don't do it to Hashem your God. So based on this, I mean, what items are included just based on the pasuk? So you've got the mizbeach. Oh, sorry, that's not the first one. You've got the makomos. That's the first one that's listed. Yeah, the makomos where they serve, and then list the places where they did these things. Their mizbachos, their matzevos, their asheros, and their idols, and their names. But clearly not all those apply to God, because we don't have idols of God, and we don't have trees of God, right? But seemingly the other things would fall under the Eter. So now let's see if that plays out. So that was just Torah Shulchan. Now let's see if that plays out in the Rambam. So back to the Sefer HaMitzvos. So he says, yeah, so lo tasun kein lad Hashem elokechem, where it says footnote 49 in the text. After it preempted this or preceded this with the commandment to destroy Avodah Zarah, or Shema, and to wipe out its name, and to entirely destroy its altars. He's here, so that's what we just read. He's here, and then it warned and said, don't do this to Hashem your God. Anyone who violates any one of these, Kigon, for example, sheyaharus mashahu min hahechal v'hamizbeach v'kiyot bahem, someone who destroys any small amount of the sanctuary or the mizbeach, o shemachak shem mishemas Hashem, or he erases one of the names of Hashem, sofig makos, so he gets whiplashes. Uvasof makos nisbar b'lashon hagamar shasorif atze hekdesh sofig makos. So in the end of the Gemara Makos, it is explained. I don't know what it means b'lashon hagamar. I don't know if that means like in the lashon of the Gemara, or if that's something that I don't know about in Mikdash. That one who burns the ate hekdesh is the wood that is used for kodesh purposes, gets whiplashes. I mean, it's not okay. Well, I'll finish reading, then I'll observe. Sofig Makos. Amru, they said, it's warning, it's from here, meaning from our pasuk. Okay, there you go. So I was wrong. God does have trees. The trees that are used for wood for burning on these be'ah. Yeah. Lo tasun kein lad Hashem elokechem. Also, it's clear there that one who raises the name of God gets a malchus. Amru as harte mihacha, and gets that warning from here. But Yibatem Eshmam, you shall destroy their names. Lo tasun kein lad Hashem elokechem. Don't do so to Hashem your God. And the laws of this mitzvah are explained in Shavuos. Okay, any observations or questions or somethings? I mean, if I asked you to sum up the mitzvah in one sentence, based on the Sefer mitzvahs, what would it be? That's what it sounds like, right? But it's interesting because it's not even all Kodesh things.
Right.
Like destroying Truma would not be included in this, or
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's things associated with, like,
Also, like Avodah Zarah.
Right. So based on the Avodah Zarah thing, I would say it's destroying avodas Hashem. I don't know what word to fill in the blank with. It's like I was going to say implements, but it includes the places also.
Right.
But like it sounds like it's focusing on objects associated with. But then there's the names also though, which is
it possible it's objects associated with Shem Hashem?
Yeah, that's a good formulation.
Like it's truma is not associated.
Right, that's true. That's true. True. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So now that was the Sefer Mitzvos. Now next thing that I put in the packet is the minion hamitzvos in the Mishneh Torah. I think. Yes, that is what I did. Yeah. Okay. So in the minion mitzvos, first of all, check out check out how big it is. It's like a sore thumb. Samachay.
Yeah.
Shlola abed beis hamikdash, obate knesios, obate midrashos. V'chein ein mochagin es hashemos hamukudashin, v'ein ma'avdim es kitzvei hakodesh. There he says kitzvei hakodesh in its entirety. Shneimar abed abdun v'asherim tizrufun lo sasu k'nein l'Hashem l'kechem. I think we remarked on this when we read it earlier in the year, but like, first of all, lots of examples. Not as clean of a formulation as a one Zev Granick. He just lists examples, right?
Right.
And he lists a couple that he didn't mention before. He did not mention shuls, and he didn't mention bata midrashos, and he didn't mention kisvei kodesh.
Right. He said different.
Yeah, and in here he doesn't mention the mizbeach, and whereas he did mention that here, and he doesn't mention ate hekdesh. See, the other thing also is like in the Sefer Mitzvos, he does say the kiyot behem and things like them, whereas this formulation makes it sound like davka these things.
Right.
Okay, and by the way, note where this appears in the list. Okay, so 3 above it. Oh, 4 above it. Starting at the top of the page. Okay, samech in the Minyan Mitzvos. She'anu mushayin al birkas Hashem. So we're prohibited against blaspheming the name of God. Then samech aleph is shelo lavor ashvuos bitui, not to violate an oath. Ashvuos bitui. 62 shelo lishava lashav, not to take an oath in vain. 63 is what we did yesterday, or this week. Shelo l'chal es Hashem hakadosh baruch hu, not to desecrate the name of God. 64 shelo l'nathos es dvar Hashem, which is the last mitzvah in Hilchos Yesodei Torah. Then 65 is not to destroy these things, and then 66 is on a complete. It seems to be on a different category. Is not to let the dead body hang on the tree overnight. Yeah. So interesting ordering here. I mean, I'm especially interested in the not testing the word of Hashem, which you could see how 60, 61, 62, 63, and 65 are all about the name of Hashem, but 64 on the surface is not about the name of Hashem. It's about a Navi, or it's about Hashem himself. Right. So it's weird that and it comes later in the Mishneh Torah. So like it's weird that it's like interjected here.
Weird. I mean, it's weird altogether that this Hitler is so far down the list.
Yeah. Shem Hashem seems to be pretty important.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, but then when you consider the fact that all the Avodah Zarah stuff, I think everything before this is Avodah Zarah stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it's far down the list numerically, but not like categorically. Yeah.
And the iyun of destroying the Avodah Zarah, I'm assuming that's before.
That's a good assumption. Let's check. I don't have that in the packet. I'm sorry, but let me just check it in the. Oops. Hold on. You want to take bets? What number?
Oh. Yeah. Whoa.
Wow. So we got a zealot here. Abid.
26.
Okay, let's see. The question is, can I find it? That's the primary question. Hold on. Looking for Avodah Zarah. Hello. This is the only essay in Hilchos. Oh no, sorry. There's 2 essays in Hilchos Avodah Zarah. I think there's this one, and then you remember the other one. You burn an ir hanidachas.
Of course.
Oh, why am I? Okay, what am I saying? Hold on. I'm looking in the Los essays. That's why I'm not getting it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Well, still a good question where it is in the Oh yeah, wow. This is shocking also though. So in the mitzvah ta'ase, it is 185.
Wow.
And it is placed near, so it comes after all the stuff about murder and then making a ma'akeh. So like we got giving cities of, setting aside 6 cities of refuge, giving cities of refuge to the Levim, ma'akeh, then destroy Avodah Zarah and all of its accoutrements, and then killing Ante Irhani Dagas, then killing the 7 Amin, then Amalek, and then so it's kind of a loner there. It's like not grouped with, it's or entering into the land really. I think and interacting with the non-Jews. Yeah, interesting.
Right. And not partaking in any desecration of God's name, like with like things that are avodah zarah or with things that are like actually not avodah zarah. I mean, just don't desecrate anything.
Are you saying that in reference to the list of essays I just said, or are you saying that in reference to the? I'm missing the reference, what you're referring to in what we're talking about here.
I'm not even sure.
Okay, accurate statement though, but in terms of what you said, I just wasn't sure I missed your meaning. Okay, so now look then on the page where it shows in Hilchos Yesodei Torah on the Halukos Asparim or whatever, with the Sefer at the top. Hilchos Yesodei Torah. So we are in, so the formulation here in Hilchos Yesodei Torah Fes, Shalol Abid Devarim Shenikra Shemo Alehem, not to destroy things upon which his name is proclaimed. Okay, and this is in line with the Lekadesh Shemo, Shalol Chala Es Shemo, Shalol Abid Devarim Shenikra Shemo Alehem, and then next one, Shemo Min Hanavi HaMedaber Bishmo. Yeah, right. So these are all vis-a-vis the Shem Hashem. Yeah.
Right.
Which again is consistent with the place in the listing of the losas, because that was also Shem Hashem things. Okay, but now here's the kicker. Kicker is the opening halacha of Hilchos Yesodei Torah 6. Okay, next page. Yeah. Kol ha'ma'abed shem min ha'shemos hakadoshim hatahorim shenikra b'hem hakadosh baruch hu loka min haTorah. Yeah, very specific example, and it's funny because it's not shocking if you're reading it in the context of the Mishneh Torah, because you've just been talking about Chilul Hashem and Kiddush Hashem. Oh, here's another thing about the Shemos Hashem. But if you're reading the Sefer Mitzvos, I mean, he led with the Mikdash, the Sefer Mitzvos, right?
And the pasuk also kind of focuses on Mikdash.
And the pasuk focuses on the Mikdash also, and Shemam is the last thing that is. Shemam almost sounds like a final cause, or like a kiyum of destroying avodah zarah, if you'll wipe out their name from this place. But the actions you're doing are destroying their avodah stuff.
Right.
And here's another shocker: in this perek, no mention of destroying the base of Mikdash or the altar.
What?
You know where he puts that?
In Sefer.
Yeah. So let's look at that because it's really short. Skip to the last page of the packet. So this is in Hilchos Beis HaBechira perek Aleph, and it's one halacha. Halacha Yud Zayin, last halacha Yud Zayin, bottom of the page. Last page, bottom of the page.
Oh.
Yeah, got it? Yud Zayin 2. V'chol ha'notet even achas min ha'mizbeach o mikol ha'heichal o mi bein ha'ulam v'lamizbeach derech hashchasa loka. Anyone who destroys one stone from the altar, or from the sanctuary, or from between the ulam is the hallway. Is that ulam? Yeah, right. The hallway.
Like the area between the mizbeach.
Antechamber, is that what they call it? Yeah, it's got like, I feel like it has like a fancy architectural name.
Yeah.
And the altar, derech hashchasa, by way of destruction. Interesting, he qualifies it there. I mean, it's not destroying it per se; it's doing it in a destructive manner. I don't know what that is. Loka gets malchus shnemer v'nitatztem es mizbechotam lo tatztem kein l'Hashem elokechem. So if you read the Mishneh Torah, you would not even know that this is part of the same law as the one that's being discussed in Avodah Zarah. I mean, he quotes the same pasuk, but like it's in different Sefarim. It's like thrown in this chapter here.
Wow.
Interesting classification. Not from its place of prominence, as set by the Sefer Mitzvah. It's like, yeah. Which, by the way, is I'm just realizing now. So this is an interesting thing that I've never thought of. Maybe this will be the theme this year in Tisha B'Av. Is Tishba, we talk about what's bad about destroying the base of Mikdash is no more makom avoda and no more makom shechina. But what do we see from here is Shem Hashem. I don't think I've ever thought about Tisha B'Av from the framework of the tragedy is the destruction of the Shem Hashem.
Right. I'm actually, it's funny, I just read a.
It's actually very tragic, not funny.
It-
Yeah.
I just finished a book, another Urban book,
Oh yeah.
on the temple,
Oh,
and he talks about the Mikdash is like very much about Shem Hashem.
interesting. Okay, nice. What's the book called? I don't know if I've heard.
The temple.
Oh, good title. Very apt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
stumbled upon it. I was like, oh, I gotta get it.
Yeah. Nice. What was I going to say about that? Also, the Shem Hashem. Also, another thing that I don't think is this is more of a drushy point, but like the fact that Am Yisrael is the people that God's name is proclaimed upon is an interesting thing, just philosophically about what is bad about what's bad about killing Jews. But no, but like that's another thing. I feel like we don't think of it in those terms. You know, that like we think it's bad because you're killing the nation of Hashem, but like specifically in terms of destroying things upon which the name of God is proclaimed. Like we are called, you know, like don't we say that in
Yeah.
is it in one of the Tachanun, long Tachanun Sugim?
Shem Hashem.
Oh,
No.
yeah, that's for tefillin.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's hold on, or maybe it's one of the Avinu Malkenos. Like there's yeah, there's a phrase that's going through my head. Selaman, is it a Selaman? No, I don't know what I'm thinking of. Where are you looking? Oh, Tachanun. Okay. All right, I'll notify you of it if I think of it. Okay, so we're off to a weird start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing I just want to mention also, not that this is a point I have the right to be insistent upon, but I feel like people view the erasure of Hashem's name as a very serious thing, and it is, but it's kind of malchus, you know, which is the lowest Torah punishment, as opposed to like the severity of everything else that we've seen so far with the Shem Hashem, you know.
But you're saying like actually just erasing,
Yeah.
like just writing it and then erasing it.
Yeah, or even not writing.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Huh.
Yeah. Another thing I just want to observe about again is it when we think of the evil of Nebuchadnezzar destroying the base of Mikdash, you know, or the Romans. I mean, I guess this is the Tisha B'Av point, but I don't think of it as he was ma'abed the Shem Hashem, and I also don't think of it in terms of he's doing to us what we were commanded to do to the Ovdei Avodah Zarah in Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
And it's like a reversal of like that, you know, Klal Yisrael is supposed to come into Eretz Yisrael and wipe out the shame of Avodah Zarah, and because of our Chatayim, Nebuchadnezzar did it to us as it came into Eretz Yisrael and wiped out the Shem Hashem and the Malchum Avodah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just these are new thoughts about Tisha B'Av. I really have to let's remind each other this Tisha B'Av, like that this was a theme we uncovered because I've just never thought of this before.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeshiva Shem Lathem. And Yeshiva Amid. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Is it the wait? Oh yeah. Is this would that be a Phil Hashem? Is that Phil Hashem?
It is. It's interesting. Ibud Hashem.
Like
and-
having the Mikdash be destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. What is the relationship between destruction of the Shem Hashem and Phil Shem Hashem? Because you can argue that they're worse in different ways. Obviously, destroying it is bad because it's no longer in existence, but desecrating it is a distortion of it, whereas destroying it is not a distortion of it. Destroying it is just like wiping it out. Whereas Chilul Hashem is like you know, you're making it mundane, or you're making it you know, not Kodesh.
I see.
So like I don't like. Here's another thing. Like we saw that when you do Shavua Sheker, that is a Chilul Hashem. So let's keep our eyes open of is destroying these things, is violating this isur achil Hashem, or is it just not in the same category? I think that's good like framework orientation question that we'll just keep our eyes open as we go through this. Yeah.
I guess also like, does intention matter when it comes to like this? So like, let's say they're destroying a holy thing. Like
Yeah.
if he's destroying it to desecrate it, or is it just destroying for the sake of destroying?
That is interesting because we saw in the halacha we read in base of Sefer that if you destroy the mikdash derech hashkasa, which I don't know if derech hashkasa is referring to intent or manner of acting, like, but if it is intent, then we have to see if that applies to like the cases of erasing God's name, you know?
Right.
Which would make sense that it would.
It would make sense that it would, right? Yeah. And then another thing that I'm thinking about here, this is a side point. We'll wait till we get to the end for the side point. But yeah, that's a good question. Okay. Shiva Shemos name. There are 7 names. Hashem Nichtav Yud Daled He. Sorry, we're at the Hilchos Torah, perek halacha bet. Yeshiva Shemos name. There are 7 names. Hashem Nichtav Yud He Vav He. So the name that is written with those letters. Hu Hashem HaMeforash, which is the explicit name. Okay. Side gripe I have to say here. I feel like it's a very common thing. I don't know if this happens in yeshivas. I feel like I hear a lot of my students who went to seminary refer to the singular of mefarshim as meforash. That's just bad grammar. It's mefarish, not meforash. Meforash is an adjective that means explicit.
Like a meforish.
One of the a mefarish is one who explains, and mefarshim is explainers. A meforash means an explicit. So unless you're talking about like a rap song that you shouldn't play around kids, then you know, yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, what makes it meforish?
What makes the name of God meforish? Or yeah. Let's read the halach verse and O hanichtav aleph daled nun yud. Right, so those are 2 of them. The kel, okay, which we would translate typically as God, or literally kel is power. Anything that has to do with aleph lamed is power. Elo, I know people say eloka, or eloach is probably the better way to say it. Right, well, because it's the way you pronounce it in Hebrew. The last, I'm just trying to think. Is there a pasuk that says this? I could read the pasuk to demonstrate. Let me just look for a pasuk. I know that sounds weird. That's why it's eloka. Yeah. Oh man, can I not search for the? Is there a pasuk that you can think of really quickly that has that Shem Hashem in it? No. That was a fast no. Hold on. There's enough. It's just for some reason the search is not. I mean, I feel like it's. It's in Hazino. We got one, I think. It's in the beginning of Hazino. Hold on. Or maybe not the beginning, but Hazino. Yeah, it is. So Lamed Beis Tes Vav. Yeah. So I'm saying this just because I have heard people mispronounce this Shem Hashem, and it's important to say the name of God correctly.
1102.
So Vayishman Yishrun Vayivat Shamata Avisa Katita Vayitosh Eloah Asahu Vaynaboturi. So yeah, that's how you say it. So really, if you're gonna put the kuf in, it'd be Eloach, but that just sounds weird. So yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And when you're learning about it and talking about it, like, is it fine to say?
So I have heard people do that. I feel like I've never heard any of my Rebbeim in yeshiva do that. So I feel like I've never asked the shaila. In fact, it's one I you know those shailas that like you tell yourself you've been meaning to ask this, and then like 18 years later you realize you've never asked it. You know, so like I gotta ask Rav Pesach next time I see him. But like yeah, I definitely have friends who do that, but I've just never heard anyone say it here. Yeah. Okay, and then Elohim, and then this is a funny one, is Ekia, not Ekia Asher Ekia, but just Ekia itself. Okay, Shapai and then Svakos. So if you count them up, how many do you get? No. Never trust the Rambam. Always verify yourself.
8.
Yeah, 8. Right.
You could have guessed that. Like after 7.
Right.
Right. I mean, so the weird thing is, I mean, it's 7 names, but the first name is 2 names. Right. Yud Vavke and Aleph Daled Nun Yud is counted in the 7 as one name, but I guess in other words, because you pronounce Yud Vavke as Aleph Daled Nun Yud, then that itself is treated as a Shem Hashem, even though it's only the Kri.
Interesting.
I mean, he said, "Oh, nichtav Aleph Daled Nun Yud," right?
Which is weird because that's the only shame that's not actually written. Like obviously, I guess it could be written. It says like that word in the Torah.
Yeah.
But like the reason it's a Shem Hashem is because like it's the Kri of an actual Shem Hashem.
Is that a fair statement? I wonder because no, because like let's say we find a case in a Chumash where it is that, so like when we say it is, it's one of the names because you know, and especially because some of these names are very rare. Like Ekia is only used once or twice if you count Ekia or Ekia, you know. So like, you know, yeah. Now going back to your question, why do we call the Shem HaMeforash the explicit name? So let's look at the footnote here. I have my own answer, but let's look at the footnote first. Hashem HaMeforash Habarer, the clear name. That's interesting. Sheif lo rak mashmalas achas. It only has one meaning. Okay, that is what I was going to say. Yeah. Ve'eno nigzar mipulos Hashem, right? So I feel like we mentioned this in, where do we mention this? Tefillah or Tehillim or something. That yes, Tehillim. That Yud Vavke is the only name of God that refers only to God's essence, and it does not refer to his actions and does not refer to any of his creations. So all the other names can refer to other stuff. So let's just go through the names, just make sure we understand them. So Yud Vavke we don't know exactly what it means. Okay, I'll say this anyway, even though I think we said it earlier. Yud Vavke is Machlokas Rishonim about what's the shoresh. Okay, so the answer you're taught as a kid is it's Haya Hovev Yihya. So Haya, to be or to exist, and then we call him Hashem because Haya Hovev Yihya, he was, he is, he will be. So that's what the Rashbam holds, okay, among others. Rambam says
That's not what we call him, Hashem. That's what we call him.
That's what we call him, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Sorry. In my mind there was a ksiv, you know. Rambam in the Mora Nevuchim says we don't know what Yod Vavke means. Okay, and he said we have reason to believe that it means something pertaining to the idea of absolute existence. But we don't know, and it doesn't share any shortcomings with anything else.
It's not even related.
So that's really the question here. Okay, so this is like I think Joey Lifter asked me this question earlier in the year. Like, but practically speaking, like, isn't it the same thing? So yes and no. The yes is if you ask the Rambam, like, what are we talking about when we say Yod Vavke, he would say it's a being who's outside of time, who's like an intrinsic existence. But the big difference in my mind is that the Rashbam is saying that when we talk about when we say the word Haya or Yihya, and like we use that word and the name of God share an etymological root. And therefore, when we apply it to God, we're using a borrowed term. According to the Rambam, he's emphatically saying there is no etymological relationship between the name that we use for God and anything else in the entire universe. Now, if we have to try to come up with a conception of what we mean by Yud Kei Vav Kei, the best we can do is say like intrinsic existence, but it's like it's completely not related. Like to give the Aristotelian categories here of like there's univocal terms, analogical terms, and equivocal terms. So univocal means is two words that are used in that sound the same and mean the same thing exactly. So for example, what was it when I had a mnemonic for myself is pen, pineapple, and apple. Okay. So if you say, for example, I ate a pineapple and that is a pineapple tree. You were using the word pineapple in exactly the same way, right? A pineapple tree is one that produces those spiky things, and I ate like the fruit. Okay. If you say I ate an apple, and if you say about like your daughter, she's the apple of my eye, so that is an analogy. Okay, it's analogical. It's the same word, and it's a borrowed meaning, I guess, because an apple is like a precious little thing, and like that's an apple of the eye, as I don't know this. Now, if you say I wrote with a pen, and I put the pig in a pig pen, you're using the same word, but they have absolutely no relationship. Or
except for the fact that they're made up of the same letters.
Exactly. It's
the only thing they share is that it's the same letter.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. So the difference to me, so this is why, to me, it makes a big difference the Rashbam versus the Rambam. Rashbam is saying that Yud Kei Vav Kei and the word Haya are analogical, that they both mean existence, but God's existence is of a different nature. So like we use the term like Haya in everyday speech to mean to exist, and then God, his existence is different, but like it's the same word. Rambam is saying that they're equivocal. It's like God, Yud Kei Vav Kei has absolutely nothing to do with any notion that we can possibly have of existence.
And it's just a coincidence that it has like hey, yud, and hey.
Apparently, yeah. I mean,
coincidence.
Yeah. For according to the Rambam, you mean?
Like yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been any other letters, like any combination. Of letters.
Yeah, apparently, because just the way that the Rambam says it is like we don't know. I mean, let's see if we could find the source just to where he says it. Just so you can hear it. And you are entirely within your rights to say that I'm reading this into the Rambam. I'll just say you're wrong. Hold on just a second here. Yeah. I'm just preempting your question. Okay, I'm just looking for it. How would I find it? Existence. Oh no, that shows up everything. Let's see. Tetragrammaton. That's how I would do it. Tetra. There we go. Found it. Okay. So the Rambam says in the more Nevuchim. Oh, I should probably share this on the screen. Stop share. New share. All of this is in 161 in the morning. We don't have to get it because it's very short. All the names of God, may he be exalted, are to be found in any of the books derived from actions. There's nothing secret in this matter. The only exception is the one name Yud Kei Vav Kei. This is the name of God that has been originated without any derivation. And for this reason, it's called the Shem HaMeforash, which Shlomo Pinetz says articulated name. Okay, this means that this name gives clear, unequivocal indication of his essence. Perhaps it indicates the notion of a necessary existence according to the Hebrew language, of which we today know only a very scant portion, and also with regards to its pronunciation. So it sounds like he's saying like maybe it means absolute existence. We don't really know Hebrew well enough to say. Well, the Rashbam knows enough Hebrew to say that it's Haya, So yeah.
He's saying it's possible though that it is derived. Right? If it was.
No, he's saying it is definitely without any derivation, and perhaps it indicates the notion of a necessary existence. He's not even sure about that.
Wouldn't that be the same thing as saying like it's just a word that means God that doesn't mean anything else, or means God's not exist? What means refers only to God?
You mean? Are you asking? Is this a different way of asking the question? when Rambam says perhaps it indicates the notion of necessary existence, are you asking, well, what else could it mean? Like,
Well, if it means that
yeah,
in the Hebrew language. Oh, okay, wait. That's not that wouldn't be derivative of the word that means regular existence.
according to the Rambam, I think not, because as we saw in Hilchos Torah, like we can't have any notion of God's actual existence. And again, I'm kind of like making an assumption here about the Rambam, but like I think the Rambam would be very uncomfortable with the idea that like okay, let me give you an analogy that's easier for us to understand that we don't understand. Okay, when we say God is one, Rambam is very clear. The oneness that we say about God is a completely different kind of oneness than the oneness we say about anything else, right? And it's just the best word we have is one. But any notion of oneness that we have has nothing to do with God's actual oneness. Nothing to do with it.
Right.
Okay, so he's saying the same thing about existence. And if the word did share a meaning with Haya and Hovem Yeh, it would like taint that pure idea. Then we would feel like, oh, I can know something about God's existence. Like I know what Haya means, I know what Yeh means, I know what Hovem means, and God's just like all of them, you know? Yeah.
Right. The fact that the word just happens to make up those things is like in the same way that like this seems like it's one book, but it's a different one. It is one book,
Right,
but
yeah.
it's a different one.
Yeah, it's completely, yeah, right.
It's just the same idea that like
Yeah.
it might have letters but they're just totally different.
Yeah.
It's a different type of.
Right. What this is making me think of, and what you said or started to say about the proper name of God is there's that always back to Mortimer Adler, but the Mortimer Adler book about how to think about God, a guide for 20th century pagans. He has a book in there about the uniqueness of the word God as a proper noun, and how it has different properties as a concept of what a proper noun is than other nouns. I want to go back and reread that and see if there's any insight.
Because it's a proper noun.
Yeah, meaning, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is like is that undeniable. Like with the other name we call the Shem HaMeforsh is the Shem HaMiyuchad, the unique name or the designated name. So it's like the most proper noun ever, you know, because any other proper noun that you have can refer to many things, like, you know, but this one only refers to God, you know. So yeah,
like, right, like you could have many Zebs or many Z's, but like this is like only a proper name, not a class.
Yeah, it's not a class, right? Yeah. The other thing also about it is that like regarding what the Rambam says, that perhaps it indicates the notion of necessary existence. The question is, what does the Rambam mean by perhaps? You know, that's why I was wondering, like, so one possibility is to say, well, perhaps it means necessary existence, or perhaps it means absolute oneness, or perhaps it means like being outside of time. But another possibility is perhaps it is not conveying any human concept at all. It's just a pure proper name of God. Like, because which gets to the question of like, you know, how is it language? Like language conveys concepts, but what do you do for a word that is conveying something that can't be a concept?
Right, like how did it get there?
Yeah.
How did it start being a word? Like,
yeah, right.
Like
yeah.
Right.
That's the
yeah.
But it just seems like.
Oh, sorry. Just in terms of that, like that's that midrash that I'm going to misquote it only because I don't know how to instantaneously find it, and then I'll see if I can find it later on. Is that before the universe was created, then the only Shem Hashem that existed was Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then only when God created the universe, then the other names came into existence. Now that's the simple meaning of that is since all the other names are derived from God's actions, then that's what, you know, then once you can't have those names of God without his actions,
right?
You know. But like, yeah, is God's name only existed in his own mind, so to speak, before the universe was created, because he's the only one who knows whatever that means. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. What were you gonna say? Before I rudely interrupted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
Okay. Interrupt again if need be.
Yeah.
So that Yud Vavke, and that's the Shem HaMaforash. Mr. Commentary Guy says because it is clear and only has one meaning.
Oh,
Yeah.
It seems really like it just seems like very oddly coincidental that like it is all the letters of like it seems like it's the same shorish as I played it.
Yeah, and see, that's why I think the Rambam's statement puts us in our spot of we really don't know enough about the Hebrew language to say that.
Right.
You know, and it's interesting that even in the Rambam's day, remember, Rambam was in the early Rishonim, and this was like the golden age of Hebrew grammar, you know, like, and that's what they were trying to figure out. And he's saying that already at that point, we don't know about the origins of Hebrew and can't say. So he would say to you like, oh, you know Hebrew that well that you're so sure that it's the same shorish, you know,
Right.
like I was amusing myself. It's so dumb. I was amusing myself by thinking. I for some reason I looked up Kugel on Wikipedia to see how it was spelled in Hebrew, and I was like, oh, maybe Kugel is in Hufal, and like so lehit kagel is like to make oneself into a Kugel, you know. And I was thinking of like sharing it like with my grammar friends who like just upset them, you know. But like that's like the type of thing that Rambam was saying about like, oh yeah, you think that Yud Vavke has to do with Haya? Oh, so like you know, like you know, that's as idiotic as me saying that Kugel can be like conjugated into different, you know.
That's great.
Yeah, I guess lehit kagel could either be to make yourself into Kugel or to deceptively act as Kugel.
Make yourself seem
Make yourself seem like Kugel. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
great spy movie or like you just
Quick. Yeah.
like a superhero movie.
Yeah. Lamest superhero ever. So then Alpha Nun Yod obviously comes from Adon of lordship. Kel, Elokim, Elokah all have to do with power. Elokim I mentioned on the Tilm Shir is plural because it is referring to the fact that all forces and power stem from God. And it's weird, by the way. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but it's weird that we treat Elokim as a singular noun, right? You don't say Vayomru Elokim. You say Vayomer Elokim. You know, even though it's a plural word.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually I asked. I didn't know whether native Hebrew speakers are bothered by this or whether they notice it. And so like I asked my chavurah Rindy to ask his wife, who's an Israeli, do you find it weird that like we use a Hebrew plural term as singular? And she's like, and I think she said no. I think she was like, no, it's just like the way we say it. You know, yeah. In other words, they don't have that jarring experience that people get now that people are using the word they and them as singular. You know, there is still a jarring experience, you know. Shin Daled Yud means what?
Well, the one who said enough.
Yeah, so it really is like the literal translation is who is enough or what is enough,
Right.
She and Dai, right? So there's two interpretations. Is the Chazal one, I think is the one you're quoting, is the one who Misha Amar La'olamo Dai, the one who said to his world enough. That is I know there's a Aleph Beta Rabbi Foreman video where he gives like a good but a watered down version of like the fine tuning of the constants argument, and he uses that name Shin Daled Yud as reference to that, like the one who set the quantities of the universe, which I think is a cool idea. You know, he said that's not what Chazal meant, obviously in that sense, but like because they didn't know that, but and then the Rabag,
Wait,
yeah,
they could have meant quantity. Like,
they could make quantities, right? Yeah, I mean they didn't know the fine tuning thing, but you know, but let's say like even like when we say in the can I brought the sitter?
yes.
In the bracha of Kiddush Levana, don't we say that reference this idea there? Where do they have the Levana is Kiddush Levana. Oh no, a slightly different one. I mean, I guess you could say it, but I was thinking of the phrase "Chok Uzman Nasan Lahem Shlo Yishanu Es Tafkidam," that he set a statute and a time for them that they don't change their orbit, I guess, or their trajectory. But there's another phrase in Tehillim also that talks about God setting the boundaries for the seas and God setting or like, let's say, like in the Radak we're doing in Tehillim, about the size of the nipple is such that if it were any bigger, then the baby would like be strangled by the milk, and if it was any less, then it wouldn't be able to like draw forth the milk. It's like they're even if Chazal did have an idea of quantities, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing is the Ralbag's explanation of Shin Daled Yud is that it's referring to the idea of God as the source of existence, that God's existence is self-sufficient, meaning that he exists because he exists, right? He is an intrinsic existence, and only a being like that, so to speak, has enough existence to grant to other people. So God is sufficient in existence, and therefore is the one who can grant existence to other things. We are not sufficient in our existence. We can't sustain our own existence and can't produce existence. So that's that idea.
It's interesting that he's linking those two.
I feel like there is a sophisticated philosophical argument that underlies that, but it rings true in common sense also, like that only the being who is in intrinsic existence can create yesh me'ayin, like although Ralbag doesn't hold that. And then tzvakos literally means what? Yeah, hosts, or I think armies is a better literal translation. And that, my understanding of referring to God as, I mean, it's funny because in Tefillah we say like Elokates, we don't just call him tzvakos. We have like other names before it, but that's referring to the fact that God is the one who commands the legions of the laws of nature or the malachim or all the creations, and then I was gonna say one more thing for one of these names. I skipped that one.
Wait, that's different. Why is that different than Elohim?
I think Elohim refers to the power and the force, whereas tzvakos refers to the systemic nature of and the order of existence.
So then that sounds like
think.
Omer Olam Kai.
They're related, but this is just in my mind. Shin Daled Yud refers to the quantities, and tzvakos refers to the lawfulness of the systems. And those are not synonyms, right? Like you can have a lawful system, but the quantities are result in in something that's not stable or whatever.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And then Eke, I will be what I will be. What's the idea behind that?
That he isn't anything other than existence. Like he doesn't have any other.
Yeah. So I think that's how the Rambam says it, is that he is. So with a human being, you have a subject and a predicate, right? So like the dog is small, or like Matt is happy. So there's the thing, and then it's what you predicate of, which is the quality. With Hashem, who is one, he's the only being about whom the only statement you can make about him is to predicate him of himself. Hashem is Hashem. You can't, if you said a quality, any quality, that would be implying a plurality within him, or it would be implying a change, like Hashem is the only being who can say, I will be what I will be. You will not be what you be because you're constantly undergoing change because you're a physical thing, like I can't, anything in the physical world will not be what it will be. Only Hashem will be what he will be because he doesn't change.
Well, it'll be what it will be. It just won't be what it is now.
That's true. Yeah, right. That's true. So now I'm questioning where I heard or read this. Yeah. And then I always was, how the movies translate this Shem Hashem, like the Ten Commandments, or like they say I am that I am. And I recently saw someone, I got to figure out who it was, that said that you can read Eke not in the future tense but in the present tense. Which that also works. I just grammatically, it kind of surprised me.
Right. I've heard like Rashi says it's about like he's with the Jews in like Mitzrayim. Yeah, so
Rashi in that comment at least learns it as a reference to God's actions. Not whereas like Rambam learns it as talking about God himself of intrinsic existence. Yeah. So those are just elementary ideas of the names. And by the way, all of these meanings I was saying, I'm not saying that they're all from the Rambam. Those are just like, I feel like it's important to have some basic idea of what we mean by each of these shemos. So it's just what I think of when I think of these things, but they're
Right.
collected from different sources. Yeah.
So the Ram, we just saw in the Mora, the Ram said that all the names are about his actions except the general form.
Yeah,
So what does he do with Eki after Eki?
that's a good question.
If he says it's about his actions.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that, and this is just gonna make you say, well, what do you mean? Is that he might agree we are speaking analogously.
Oh.
You know, that it's talking about, it is that Eki does derive from the shorsh of Haya.
Aha.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's analogous. So that's okay. Good.
That's analogous, whereas Yukivake is equivocal.
So that's the only. So what he means is that's the only word that's not, or the only word that is equivocal. The only name that's not analogous or.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So in other words, you can have, just to put it in terms of the way that you asked your question, you can have other names of God that refer to his essence, but they also refer to other things in the universe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Either his actions or analogous things.
Right.
Yeah. And then the last sentence of the halacha, kol mochik afilu os achas mishiva shemos elu loke, which is interesting because you could conceive of, anyone who erases any letter of one of these 7 names gets malchus. You could have conceived of the Isser as such, of like if you completely erase the name, but it's saying like any destruction of the name constitutes a violation of Isser. And then in the next halachos, he's going to go into the parameters of that. But I think this is a good stopping point for today.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah. It's not about it's post recording.
Sure. Okay. I will stop. Recording is now